Hello, welcome to this video on image formation by a convex mirror. So let us see how a convex mirror, how it gives rise to an image when we place an object in front of it. So as usual, our object will be an arrow. Let's call the top of the arrow P and the bottom of the arrow Q. So this is our object. Now let's focus on the light rays that travel from the top of the arrow. We discussed in our video that light rays which travel parallel to the optical axis, so if I draw a light ray from the top of the arrow that travels parallel to the optical axis, we discussed in the video on the basics of the convex mirror that such a light ray will reflect in the following way. So we draw a dashed line from where the light ray hits the mirror. We draw this dashed line towards the focal point. Okay, so remember F here is the focal point of the convex mirror. And the reflected ray travels in the same direction as this dashed line, away from the mirror. So the reflected ray travels like this. Now we will have to draw another light ray from the top of the arrow. Let's draw our second light ray traveling towards the focal point. So let me draw it like this. So if I were to extend this line, you would see that it would reach the focal point like that. Now we discussed in the video on the basics of the convex mirror that such a light ray that is directed towards the focal point will reflect off the convex mirror and travel away from it parallel to the optical axis like this. Now remember, whenever we are talking about image formation by any type of mirror or lens, we always have to remember that there is an observer. So there will be somebody looking at these light rays. Okay, so let me draw this observer and their eye. Okay, so these light rays will enter the person's eye, and the person's brain will try to make sense of the light rays. Okay, now to the person's brain, these reflected light rays, so this one here and this one here, they appear as though they have come from behind the convex mirror, so on this side of the convex mirror. Notice that if I extend this parallel line here, if I draw it in using a dashed line like this, notice that it meets, it crosses the dashed line that has come from or that extends this light ray here. So this point here that I have circled, this is where the person thinks the image is. Okay? So the image of this arrow forms at this point here. This point here is the top of the image. Let me draw it in. So it forms here. So you see I've drawn another arrow, and the top of the image arrow, let's call that P dash, and the bottom of the image arrow, let's call that Q dash. Okay, so this is where the image forms. Now let's discuss the properties of this image. What do we know about this image, or what can we deduce about this image? So the image has the following properties. So the first thing to note about it is that it is smaller. The size of the image is smaller than the size of the object. So in other words, the image has been diminished. Let's write it like this. It is diminished or smaller compared to the object. Notice also that the image, this arrow here, is pointing up, just like this object here. Okay? So we say that the image is upright. And finally, the last property to note about the image is that it is a virtual image. It's not a real image. It's virtual because the light rays, so this light ray and this light ray that would enter the person's eye, these light rays only appear to have come from this point. They don't really start or emerge from this point. The brain only thinks that they come from that point. So that's why this is a virtual image. Thank you for listening.